It's a small farm here in North Dorset. It's a family farm. We've been here for 3 generations, over about 50 years. Here it's only fairly small. We've only got about 70 acres. We deal with feed crops, so hay, silage, haylage, and a little straw work as well. It's mostly, as you'll see as you walk around, there's a lot of sort of chalk landscape, fairly typical chalk landscape. We do have some seams of green sand running through, so you get oddball drainage sometimes where the water runs through. And obviously down in the valley where we are, there's a couple of natural springs which rise, so we get all manner of different problems in terms of the weather and drainage and water, and a lot of variability in the soil types as well. We actually just did a bit of searching online, and I think we found the scheme through the government website. Actually, it was one that was listed on the government website. Followed those links to the Woodland Trust, downloaded some information, and actually just filled in the forms. It was actually a genuinely straightforward exercise. We needed to do some associated work, take some plans, put in some maps, calculate the areas and so forth. But as a process, it's actually very, very straightforward to do. Really, it was all about just making sure the land was maintained for the future. It's very much about legacy. It's about establishing a bit more diversity and a bit more biodiversity in this part of the farm. And this patch of area here that we've got really sort of screamed at us that it was ideal. It's bounded by existing hedgerows. It's a little bit out of the way of the main grass producing fields, so we knew that it would kind of join up the rest of the farm, and it sat in the landscape really nicely. So the motivation for us, is that in 20, 50, 100 years time, there's a really healthy, active woodland here that's going to be around for a very long time. We've still got the commercial pressures of the farm needing to be able to produce, so we couldn't just plonk a load of woodland in the middle of a high quality field. This corner of the field, as I say, when we looked around, it was underutilised. It wasn't productive as a piece of farmland. So we had a few choices. We could go to town on it, we could work it, we could break it all up and reseed it, but that sort of felt counterintuitive to the long-term aims of actually improving the biodiversity here. So it was a relatively easy choice. And if you look at it from a map, if you look from above, as I say, it belongs here. It sits in the landscape really nicely. We were well informed right from the start. The guy actually only lives about 10 miles from here, so he's familiar with the region. He's a local tree specialist, and that's who the trust uses. They'll always try and find someone who's in the area who actually understands the landscape that they're looking at. So he was really helpful. He came along, looked at the ground. We had a conversation. He was open to our ideas. He wanted to know what we wanted to achieve, and he came back with a species plan, and gave us some hints and tips on how to plant to make it look natural, and how to get the best out of the plants and out of the trees once they got established. We started off looking at what was likely to grow here already. So funnily enough, in this field there are naturally small oak saplings that pop up every now and again. So simple oak was a natural choice. Then we looked at some complementary trees. So we've got things like silver birch, which look fantastic when they're grown. We've got hornbeam here. We've got some field maple. There's a couple of other species as well. What we wanted was a long-established woodland, and that's reflected very much in the tree species that we've picked. We also want something that's going to attract wildlife, indirectly and directly. So some of these trees that we've got here are particularly they're interested for insects and things like that, which then naturally brings bird life, and that just gives us a long-term benefit for the whole place. In some ways, you think planting trees was really straightforward and really simple, but it's made us think a lot more about the trees as part of the bigger picture, and that's actually, I suppose, where we've learned a lot, how the trees need to work in the location, how they need to work with the species that are already established. As you'd expect, we've had a few trees fail. They haven't all grown, and we were prepared for that. We knew that was going to be the case. The Trust were really clear about what we should expect in that regard.
Right.
So that we were prepared for that up front. And we've been replacing trees as we found them. The other big challenge here is on the hill where we are. We get a lot of wind blowing up through the valley. Mm-hmm. And so every now and again, to the extent that we've actually had stakes snap off and trees fall over. So there's been a bit of maintenance, but overall it's been pretty basic. It's been pretty simple, and cost-wise, it's been well within what we were expecting. We definitely would look at planting some more. The scheme was so easy for us to do. It was made very easy from start to finish. The saplings we got were really high quality, so we definitely use the scheme again, and we're already looking at a couple of areas on the farm that we might move into woodland just to bolster what we've done already. And obviously there's a minimum planting area that you need to achieve to qualify for the scheme, but what they allow you to do is actually take separate bits and join them together for the totality of the area, which means that we can look at little patches of the farm where we'd like to just establish really small areas, little coppices of wood, and doing that through the scheme just makes it all so much easier. The value for money that you get from it is really good. The scheme pays for so much of what you need, and when it all arrives, it's all there. You haven't got to think about it. You can just get the trees in the ground.